Warning, this episode's commentary is full of opinions instead of jokes and such. If you watch my Let's Plays only for the entertaining humor, stop watching now.
It's Steve, the Red Pigment Steve, oh yeah.
Here we go!
Hello ladies and gentlemen and welcome back to Sonic Unleashed. We're in Shamar Arid Sands Day Act 1. There we go. It's so difficult to say these level names. It's kind of weird. We've got a shit ton of collectibles to, collect. Like right here, there's like two right next to each other. And then down there, there's another one. And it's just crazy how many collectibles there are. And most of them are in the first part of the stage. Like after a certain point, you just don't find any more new metal. It's like, yeah, it's kind of weird. It makes me wonder if they, originally intended for the stage to be much shorter, but then like made it longer in hindsight, or combined two stages together, and there was actually supposed to be 3 Shamar stages instead of just 2, like another optional stage. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird, but Shamar is still great. Stage is great. Music is great. S rank is difficult as fuck, as we'll see in a bit. Didn't take me as long as the Skyscraper Scamper DLC, but it still took me quite a while to get the S rank. But yeah. Alright, now that I'm done talking about all the technicalities... technicalities? I don't even know what I meant by that. Anyway, another art book! Still so many collectibles. I have to cut so many times, it's crazy. Anyway, as I was saying, now that I've gone over how many fucking collectibles there are, there's another one. I just want to talk about the topic I talked about in last video. I feel like 6 minutes in a Warhawk stage is not the right place to talk about the quality of this game compared to the quality of Sonic Generations, which I like better. Because the daytime stages are really the most comparable aspect of the two games. And yeah, it's just I just have a lot more time this time. I'm just gonna start out by I'm gonna start out by saying some of the stuff. I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but speaking of broken record, it's in this music, so it makes sense. Anyway, I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but I'm gonna talk about some of the stuff. I feel like I didn't do either of the games justice, and the explanation of the differences I didn't do justice at all either. I'm just gonna start out by again stating the two most obvious differences between the game, where one has an advantage over the other. First of all, the major advantage that Sonic Unleashed has over Sonic Generations. It's an original game. There's so much things that you've never... The music is original, the stages are original, the story is... the story is original, and it's completely made from the ground up. And it's also the first Boost game, so it's really surprising how much new content they managed to pack into this one game. And it's also a bigger game. There's just... in terms of... like the premise of it all, it being an original game, it has 2 gameplay styles that were original at the time, instead of 0 of Sonic Generations, which has Classic Sonic, which is of course classic, and Sonic and the Unleashed gameplay style. So this game is an original game, original music. I've noticed that Sonic Generations does get a bit stale after a while, because you've seen everything before, and maybe there even exists a better version of the stage you're playing, because I think, for example, Rooftop Run is much better in this game. So is Planet Wisp. And yeah, that's another thing. Sonic Generations is all over the place. Green Hill Zone, Chemical Plant, and Sky Sanctuary just don't fit into the same game as Rooftop Run, Crisis City, and that kind of stuff. It's missing a bit of focus, which is of course something they couldn't avoid because of the whole premise, but that's what the whole premise of it all is, why it's something I think Sonic Unleashed has over Sonic Generations. Then the other obvious thing, this time in favor of Sonic Generations, the graphic quality is much better Sonic Generations came out a few years later. Sonic Generations doesn't use real places, so it can be a bit more colorful and wacky. And of course, the resolution. Sonic Unleashed has a terrible, terrible, terrible resolution. It runs at 880 times 720. That's not even 720p. That's a bit less than 720p, stretched to look like 720p. It's kind of a terrible resolution for a 7th gen console, especially compared to Sonic Generations, which I think runs at 720p, at real 720p, and it doesn't have the same shit frame rate. By the way, we're actually looking at what the S rank is going to be all about. So yeah, Sonic Generations you can obviously play on your PC on 1080p, 60 frames per second. Well, yeah, as I said, if you have the PC version. And my PC can run it at 50 frames per second or something like that. And my PC is not good enough to run it at max settings at 60 frames per second, but it's good enough to run it at like 50 or 40, which is enough for me. It's still much better than Sonic Unleashed, definitely. So those are the two obvious things. The music is original in this game. This game is a lot more original, has a lot more content, and yeah. And the Sonic Generations, of course, has the advantage in terms of graphical quality. Came out later, has a better resolution and frame rate, especially if you're on PC, which this game doesn't have a PC version. Unless you're playing the Unleashed mod, of course, but Unleashed mod is not an accurate representation of what this game is. So yeah, I won't talk more. I won't talk anymore about that. Now for a few more subjective aspects, I think the music in this game is much better. Maybe again because the music in Sonic Generations is gets stale, especially if there's a better version of the song, like in Planet Wisp. There's certainly a better the Sonic Colors Planet Wisp music tracks stuff. I don't even know what I'm talking about. Is of much higher quality, especially with the 3 different acts. Planet Wisp Classic is kind of so Planet Wisp Modern is kind of the same as Planet Wisp Act 1 from Sonic Colors, and Planet Wisp Act 2 and 3 from Sonic Colors just add so much to the song. And there's many other examples like that. For example, I think Rooftop Run is better in this game. I think that, for example, yeah, Sky Sanctuary Classic is kind of bad. The music is all over the place. I don't exactly... I think I enjoy every track in this game except for the 2 Savannah Citadel tracks and Eggman Land. Otherwise, Crimson Carnival, I think. I can't talk. Crimson Carnival, I mean. There we go. Eggman Land, Crimson Carnival. Yeah, I just, think the music is a lot better in this game, mostly probably because it's original and there don't exist other versions of the music here which can be better or worse, which is of course subjective, but just the fact that there exist other versions of the songs makes them be kind of like, okay, there might be, like, it's risky. And I don't think the entire Sonic Generations soundtrack does the original tunes justice, always, which... Yeah, it's kind of a bad thing. The music here is better. The environments are much better in Sonic Generations, technically, but again, they get stale. Yeah, run off the wall here twice. They get stale after a while because you've seen them all before, unless Sonic Generations is your first Sonic game. You've seen everything before, and it doesn't add enough at times for it to be justified and not get stale. I don't know. It's just... These environments in Sonic Unleashed, I will say, are a bit bleak at times. And, especially Shamar. Shamar just doesn't look very interesting. It's the same color all around, but at least the game has more focus. That's the biggest thing about Sonic Unleashed that I like better. It seems a bit more polished, and it's a lot more focused. There's of course the optional stages, which can be quite weird at times. But other than that, the game just... it has this one theme that it keeps through the game. The songs all have a different feel to them. Some of them are different than others. They are all different, of course, but they still have a similar feel to them. there's just a lot, there's just so much more focus in this game. The hub worlds are great. They add a lot of immersion to the game, especially in this game. They're not as bad as any other. I didn't like the ones in Sonic Adventure. I didn't like the ones in Sonic 06. There are so many bad hub worlds in Sonic games. And these ones are kind of okay, because you don't have to do anything. You can often just skip straight to the Gaia Gate and, find the new act. You will have to find them yourself, but yeah, you know where Professor Pickle is. And if you don't, then you seriously didn't pay any attention. And he will always tell you where to go next. There's a lot of content in the hub worlds, but they're not as annoying. They're not confusing at all. So and they add a lot. They're better than the level select that is Sonic Generations. Sonic Generations just feels so disjointed, so empty. This game just feels a lot. There's just a lot more game to be found here. There's a lot more focus in it. There's more content. I just think there's and now the most subjective and the most debatable aspect. I think Classic Sonic is inferior to the Warhog. Classic Sonic in the HD version of Sonic Generations handles pretty poorly at times. I like that the Spin Dash has gotten an upgrade, but other than that, the stages just aren't as good. They just stand in the shadow of modern Sonic because they're more or less the same. This game at least has two fairly different gameplay styles that are interesting in their own right, but modern Sonic has 2D sections, and those kind of make classic Sonic's 2D sections look worse in comparison because they're not as fast, you don't have the same move pool, and since classic Sonic's controls aren't exactly what they used to be in the older titles, or especially Sonic Generations on 3DS, which I'm not going to talk about in this video anymore, but yeah. Yeah, it's just... Yeah, what was I saying? Classic Sonic is just kind of bleh at times for me, especially classic Planet Wisp stages like that. They're not particularly well designed in my opinion. The Warhawk stages. The Warhawk was a risky move. A fucking very risky move. Look at that. Wait, first of all, look at this performance. It wasn't bad, right? But I got a C rank for that. That was terrible, but I don't know why. I didn't do poorly at all, which made me, from the Temp 5 onwards, just made me restart the stage. Even just by getting hit once, I restart the stage pretty much. Yeah, where was I? Yeah, the Warhawk was a risky move, and it's kind of bleh at first, but I found myself enjoying the Warhawk stages. I wouldn't want the Warhawk out of this game anymore at this point, because otherwise I think Sonic needs some kind of secondary gameplay style. There needs to be another character, there needs to be another gameplay style, because Sonic Colors, like that game won me over with its different atmospheres to the stages, and it plays around a little with 2D and 3D more than other games. But yeah, I think Sonic needs some kind of secondary gameplay style, because speed stage, that just doesn't work in my opinion. Unless they're particularly very well designed. But that's almost impossible to accomplish in my opinion. I like the Warhawk. It's my favorite secondary gameplay style to any Sonic game. I like him better than classic Sonic in Sonic Generations. I like him better than any of the characters in Sonic Adventure or Sonic Adventure 2 or Sonic 06. I like him. Well, yeah, I just like the Warhawk a lot. He can be tons of fun and a bit of a relaxation, while still not losing all. They're still tense when you're fighting and stuff. Especially if you're trying to get an S rank and do all the critical hits and everything. But they're a bit more relaxing. They calm you down after the speed stages. And I don't think in this particular version that they're too long, except for Cool Edge, which is way too fucking long. But other than that, they're not that long. I don't think they detract from the experience that much. 50% of the game are the daytime stages, or maybe like 40 or 30 because of the length of the Warhawk stages. And yeah, and the Warhawks, like, so 30% of the game are already awesome, and I think the Warhawk has won me over like 2/3. So that adds 2/3 of the remaining 70%, which then makes most of the game. I enjoy a lot. I enjoy this game through and through. There's so much great stuff to be found here. I don't feel like there's any stages that are particularly boring, except for maybe the Missouri stages. Again, I can't stand Missouri. And yeah, also the final boss is a lot better. It's more frustrating, but at least it's memorable. Sometimes memorability can make up for a frustrating boss fight when compared to a game that has a boring last boss fight, which is not as frustrating. So yeah. This game, at least, this game is a lot more, I feel this game is a lot more solid, a lot more focused, a lot more fluid, there is a lot more speed, which I think is a great thing. I don't want there to be too much platforming. I mean, platforming can be okay, but in Sonic Generations, it slowed you down like crazy. Like, you went into a 2D section and you could expect to go at minimal speed from then on. Also, here's a little glitch I discovered. I should have gone up to those rings after completing the QuickTime event perfectly, but yeah. Yeah, that's basically all there is. This game is a lot more fluid, a lot more speedy. It has more focus. It's more interesting. It's more. It has more content. The Sonic Generations is quite It's quite all over. It's all over the place. It can be get stale quicker because the level ideas are reused. And now there's one more thing I need to talk about, and this is the one thing that 90% of the people are not gonna agree with me on. I think maybe 20% of the people are gonna agree, or 30% are gonna agree with me that Warhawk is better than Classic Sonic, the way Classic Sonic works in Sonic Generations, at least. Oh, I get the Lightspeed Dash Trail, Ring Trail there for the first time. But this is something maybe like 5 or 3% of the people are gonna agree with me on. In Sonic Generations, Sonic's weight was severely, like, it was pretty much halved. He doesn't feel as sluggish. It feels a lot more fluid. You can do a lot more. The drift is, I would agree definitely that the drift is much better in Sonic Generations. Although I still think that the SD version of Sonic Unleashed has the best drift and the best design around the drift, the best level design being designed around the drift. Sonic Generations drift is pretty okay too. And yeah, the control is more fluid in Sonic Generations. I don't actually think that's a good thing. The fact that Sonic is so light in Sonic Generations kind of irritates me. I feel I want Sonic to have a little weight. I feel like in Sonic Generations, any second, Sonic is gonna take off the ground like an airplane because he's going so fast and just walk on the air molecules. Sonic feels a bit more heavy, and I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. He feels a lot better, and with how heavy he is, the speed is accentuated, and there's a few effects that are in place for Sonic's speed. If you're boosting, then there's gonna be a bit of an FOV effect, which is not present in Sonic Generations. This game feels faster and it feels more heavy, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing, because it makes Sonic feel more realistic. It feels like this would be, if Sonic had the boost and everything, then it feels like this is what Sonic would control naturally. They can, and in Sonic Generations they made a few tweaks to make him control better, but I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. It's the first time ever I've encountered that I think a game is better when it controls worse. It's kind of weird. It's kind of like Castlevania. Classic Castlevania with mid-air control would not be the same. It would be very different, especially with the level design and everything. Castlevania, I mean, people are like, why can't Simon Belmont control midair? But it's somewhat part of his charm that Simon Belmont is not some kind of amazing superhero. He's just a guy with a whip. That can jump like any other fucking human being would. It just feels a lot better in this game for some reason, because it's a lot... It feels a lot... It's a bit heavier, and I don't think that's a bad thing. So yeah, that's overall... Pretty much, given all my opinions, I would say that Sonic Generations overall is the better designed game, especially if I take into account that most people prefer non-linear type adventures. I do a bunch of silly stuff in these attempts. Yeah, kind of weird what I do in these attempts. Run into people. It's weird how the people are just stationed. I should totally run all of them over, and it's just no. Why would you do that? Because the people are made out of stone and are attached to the ground, obviously. And I stomp out of the way. Great. Attempt number 25! Everybody. Took me quite a while to beat the stage. But yeah, that's all. I would say that overall, this game is a bit more linear. This game, the Sonic Generations has the better graphical quality. And if you don't mind going through level designs that are rehashed, if you think better control is more important than the character feeling right, pretty much, than the character having a bit of weight to them, which most people probably do. If you prefer classic Sonic, there's just so many variables that you are pretty likely to like better in Sonic Generations, that I just happen to like better in Sonic Unleashed for some reason. It's just such a ridiculous streak of luck for Sonic Unleashed for me to like it this much over Sonic Generations, because there's so many things that most people enjoy more about Sonic Generations, but I enjoy more about Sonic Unleashed for some odd reason. I don't know why. I think the biggest reason why I like this version more, honestly, is how fluid and speedy everything is. Oh, and one thing I didn't talk about yet is the 2D and 3D transition. It feels like I don't even notice it sometimes. But my brain just instantly adapts to the fact that it's 2D in the background. In my subconscious is adapting to that change. And I don't need to actively think, oh no, it's a 2D section, now everything is slower. The camera is a lot better in these 2D sections. These 2D sections are a lot better designed around you being able to boost the entire time. Because if you don't boost, if you boost the entire time in Sonic Generations, you're gonna run into a lot of spikes. And these sections, these just keep the flow going. And if there's the game clearly telegraphs when you can boost, because usually when you boost in a 2D section in a long stretch of 2D stuff, then usually you end up in one of these launchers, or you end up on a ramp, or you end up just hitting a wall. It never kills you. It never gets you killed ever. I still think that Sonic Generations of 3DS is the best boost gameplay style in 2D, but this is damn near flawless as well, because it doesn't feel any different from 3D, but it still adds something to the game in a way. So yeah, I think I've talked about everything right now. If this game would get an HD re-release, I would, and with improved frame rate and everything, I would definitely say that this is at least one of the best Sonic games ever made. Especially if you can enjoy the Warhog, like I do, and think it's actually an important part of the game that you wouldn't want to see removed. So yeah. I think we're just about at the end, actually. This is the run where I get the S rank. Sorry, my commentary was very focused on this whole Sonic Unleashed, Sonic Generations thing, but I just felt like it deserved a bit more attention than what I gave it last time, and a bit more time to talk about it. I'll try to have a bit more entertaining commentary next time again, like jokes and everything. This was just entirely opinions. I'm sorry if you don't like that. But, yeah, I'll definitely go back to everything. Here you see my times, by the way. Anyway, I'll see you next time on Sonic Unleashed. Until then.